It looks like I have something that works on Docker. Let me go ahead and show you what I have. I'm going to go ahead and enter ls here at the root. And as you can see there, I have two folders, one called backend and the other one called frontend. Those correspond to the part of the application that runs on sales and the other one that is simply served over HTTP. I also have a file called Docker Compose, as you can see there, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that. I'm going to load it into Sublime Text. I'm going to go ahead and move the window a little bit down. The very first line simply refers to the Docker version. After that, I create a couple of services that correspond to those folders that I just showed you. One of them is the backend, which I'm calling Kogs back. The other one is the front end. And as you can see here, I have an instruction to load a build file. I'm going to go ahead and show you that after I close this. And then simply mapping of volumes. The reason I'm doing this is so that you have a copy of what's inside on the outside of the container, the Docker container. And the reason we do this is so you don't have to fiddle with the internals and all of the complications that go with running or accessing something inside of the container. Any changes you make to the outside will be reflected or mirrored to the inside. That's why we have that mapping there. Then lastly, we have some ports. As you can see, the port is repeated, and that simply refers to the port inside of the container and also the port in the host machine in this laptop. But in this case, I'm simply going to use the same one on both ends, so that's why you see the port 2 times. Again, this bottom one, the first one is the one that runs on sales. The second one is simply being served over HTTP, and in this case, it's Nginx. So I'm going to go ahead and close this file, and I'm going to go ahead and move inside of backend, simply to show you one of those build files that I mentioned, and I'm going to open up the Docker file. And as you can see, here is one of the build files. There's two, one for the back end, one for the front end. And as you can see, this is building from a node image, some information about who created this, and the rest of this is simply installing and adding all of the additional packages that this node image would need, closing with the exposing of the port and simply a command line command. So let me go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and move back to the root. Remember, this is where we were. And now I am going to run the command that will create all those images, run all of this code, and if all goes well, we should be able to access that application. A tremendous amount of stuff. It's going to show up on the screen. I'll probably play it on fast forward once I get it in the editor. But I'm going to go ahead and enter that command. It's called compose, Docker compose -p, and this is simply so that we can see the name of the application. I'll go ahead and call it demo in this case, and it'll have demo plus the name of those services within the Docker compose file. I am then going to enter up, and this is simply what I'm doing here is I'm simply entering Docker compose -p, which allows me to give it a name. In this case, I'm calling it demo, and then up. If you simply do Docker compose up, it'll create it, but it'll give it a generic name. In this case, I wanted to name it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit return, and we should start to see things happening. Okay, it looks like it ran to the end. In your case, it might take longer because some of the images or the partial images of this had been cached on my machine from previous runs. It might take 4 or 5 times longer. You should see feedback on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and try to access that application now. I'm going to go ahead and let me try and minimize this just so we can see what's happening here on the terminal window. I'm going to go ahead and make this smaller, and I'll simply enter localhost. As you might recall, I'm running on port 80. As you can see here, I have a clean instance of the Kogs application, and I'm going to go ahead and register. I'm going to use AbleSun as a username. And then I'm going to go ahead and enter a password. And as you can see there, we start to get some activity. It says we do not have any learning boards. And at this point, I would simply go to my learning boards and start adding a board. But I won't go through that, so if you've seen that before, I simply wanted to show you that both of the sides of the application are not communicating. I was able to create a new user. You can see here some of those messages. It says username, AbleSun, authenticated successfully. And so with that, I'll go ahead and stop. I'll try to upload this code now to GitHub, and I'll send you a link so you can give it a try on your side. So that's it for this one. Goodbye.